right, welcome back. This is our fifth installment of Three Friends, The Music Never Ends. We have a YouTube channel to promote music and life and get together as three friends and discuss things that we've discussed in the past, but bringing it forward to 2023. Just to reset, we used to make mixtapes, if anyone knows what those are. We use vinyl records, if anyone knows what those are. And we got together, so we only had what we had, and so we would get together and make those mixtapes. And then Mike had the idea of modernizing this and bringing it forward. So this is what we have now, and this is our fifth installment of it. We'll build a playlist in using Apple Music, and then we get together and we discuss and talk about the music, what it means, why we chose certain songs, and those types of things. So without any further ado, I will kick this one off because it was my turn to pick the theme. I picked a theme that was called Life and Death, essentially. And there's lots of music out there, lots of songs that take us through the arc of life, all the way through the beginning of birth to death. So there's plenty of songs and artists to choose from. But with this, we decided that since we each get about 5 songs on the playlist, that we would start out with the first 2 being songs about life, and then in the middle with the sadness and the things happening with artists who have passed away in 2022 and 2023. We decided we would pick one artist and pick one song and play that in the middle, and then songs 4 and 5 of each of us would be about more about dying or about death. So we started out, the very first song was about life, and I chose to start out the playlist with a great favorite song of mine called The Greatest Discovery by Elton John. It was actually on one of his first, I think his second album that it actually came out, but I chose the live version when he played with the Sydney, Australia Philharmonic and Symphony, and played with them on this. So it has a beautiful arrangement. I picked this song because it describes early birth through the eyes of an older sibling or an older brother. And I played the song for my kids as they were growing up. And back in the day, we would make not mixtapes, but we would take photos that we had and make a collage of photos and then put music to it. And this is one of the ones I did. And for whatever reason, they always loved this song. I had as we were coming home from the hospital and bringing the new baby home, I put this album on, put this record on, and watched my older kids that were 3, 4, 5 years old jump around and play around, and then realize that the poignant part of the song is that he doesn't know what's going on here. There's a new person here. There's somebody else coming in, and then he realizes when his parents say at the end, we have made for you a friend. And then at the very end, this is your brand new brother. And so I again, it's one of those songs that touches my heart, and I hope you enjoyed it and hope others enjoyed it as well.
No, this is a great song, obviously, and I see it on 2 levels. Well, first, let me just say I remember watching this specific concert with you, Dave, when we were way back when. So it's just one of those little things that's it's not ironic, or it's just kind of coincidental that but don't remember the song specifically, but I remember watching this concert with you. Regardless, I think this song works on 2 levels. I have a younger brother, obviously, and so of course, my younger brother means a lot to me. So that on that level, it works as well. And I don't have that. I never had it since I only had one son. I never got to, say that. But at the same time, we all understand the joy of bringing a life in, and single greatest day of my life was, the birth of my son. So that's why it hits you on a lot of different levels. And of course, seeing my son for the first time was the best thing that ever happened to me. So really love this song.
Mike, before you go, I wanted to add one more thing. I said it was Elton John, but I forgot. I kind of eliminated the other half of that duo, and that's what makes the song for me so powerful too, is the lyrics of Bernie Taupin. And sometimes you can't have Elton John without Bernie Taupin, and this is a great example of how they collaborated.
Yeah, so I liked this song a lot. I thought it was a great way to start. I mean, I know we were talking about life and birth and all that anyway, but it just really set it off great. You know, the funny thing is, I thought I knew Elton John's music well, at least up through maybe into the 80s, and I'm really not familiar with this album. I've seen a video of that that concert too, but I just didn't remember it. And so now I'm going to have to, it's always fun when there's somebody who I've liked their music and then there's something I haven't really known. And I recognize that record. I don't think I ever owned it. So it was, it's beautifully composed. The lyrics kind of teared me up a little bit, and partially mainly because, you know, I remember that experience too with my daughter. She was so tiny, and you know, I had to be separated from her mom in another room because it was kind of a emergency situation, so they just bring her out to me, and you know, any tough guy I had just melted away. And yeah, it's such a great thing. But she got to have that experience with her younger brother when he was born, which is great. She was just old enough to really kind of get it. But yeah, it's I'm gonna have to check out this whole record. I really only knew one song off of it. There's a Daniel, I think's on there. And so yeah, thanks a lot for this one. Speaking of babies, my first song was Stevie Wonder, from the songs in the Key of Life. Isn't she lovely? I'm sure just about everybody's heard this song one time or another. But yeah, I guess I have a few things to say about this. First off, this song, I have never been in a bad mood. I'm sorry, I've never listened to it when I'm in a bad mood and I didn't start feeling better. You can say that about a lot of Stevie Wonder songs, but you know, this one, he's talking about his child being born, and early toddler years. The sound, the baby crying right at the beginning, that's his daughter Aisha when she was just born. That was the first sound she made. He had a recording, which I guess not everybody is as forward thinking to do something like that, but that's Stevie Wonder. And yeah, it's a longer song, but it's the whole record is just great like that. I had the first four records I had, I can't quite remember. I know Sergeant Pepper was the first, and then the other three were White Album, Chicago Transit Authority, and Songs in the Key of Life. But no offense to the Beatles, I do think Songs in the Key of Life is probably still my favorite. I mean, it's lasted so much more for me. There's so much more music there too. I got to see him tour and play that song. I'm sorry, that whole album. That was the whole show was that record plus a few others, and it was cool because one of his backing singers was Aisha. You know, now all grown, actually, you know, probably in her 30s or more. Couple other real quick notes. He played almost everything on that record, on that recording, almost everything. And it's kind of that way for the whole album. But that song in particular, if you listen to it, just like there's so much there. It's genius musician. And a little funny aside, I used to work in a restaurant. I've mentioned it a few times here, and I play that record. And one time there was somebody working in the kitchen, and she heard it, and she knew the song, but she said, "Why does he have a sheep on there?" She had been convinced for years and years that baby sound was a sheep bleating. So to this day, people I know from those, you know, we laugh about that. Tried to be nice to her, but I'm sorry. Anyway, it's a great, great song, and I just had to put it out there.
Well, we're turning each other on to different musics and different things like that, and so there's always surprises and comes up. But it's always kind of sometimes a bonus when you hear a song and you already know it. And it was probably one of those ones that I had on my list, and I was thinking about playing it. So when you played it, I'm just like, yeah, got it. Love the version. It seems long, but I don't think it is because of I like the length and the repetition because he goes on and goes on and just every time he sings the chorus, isn't she lovely? Isn't I mean, he's singing it with such emotion every time, that it gets you. And I like how beautifully it was done with the at the beginning with all of that, and then even at the end with all of the extra orchestra. I mean, the extra music instrumentation and things he's doing, and then the voices at the end and I really like the song. I like you, Mike. Can never get it cheers me up every time I hear it. And when it comes on a playlist or radio or whatever, I always stop. I always play listen to it, and it gets me pretty fired up to be a father and just and I could same kind of thing, with maybe not so much my sons, but with all my daughters, I just think, man, aren't they lovely and aren't they, beautiful and so yeah, great sentiment, great song.
Like you, Mike, I got to see that tour as well, and I thought I'd never get to see Stevie Wonder perform. And then my friend Tom Hendrickson one day is just like, "Hey, Jose, you want to go see Stevie Wonder?" Yes, I do. And so, and then it was that where he plays this whole album, and of course, like you said, he brings on special guests. He'd always get string quartets. He'd have just different arrangements for some of the songs. And so, of course, and then when this song comes on, of course, it's one of his best songs. And of course, everyone, of course, gets that extra, that extra adrenaline flow because it's such a great song, and it's a classic, of course. And I think this is a theme, and I wasn't going to bring this up now. I think this is kind of a theme that we've learned that when you listen to this song when you're 18, it's a lot different when you listen to it when you're 58. And that's a theme that I think runs throughout all these songs, and I'll talk about more of some of those as well. But I think that's a theme that happens. Listen to this 18, like, oh, look at oh, isn't she, and you don't really think about, oh, my daughter or my wife, or you don't think about those things. But now that you listen to it, it takes on a whole new meaning, and that's why I think it's such a great song. So I'm glad you put it on, and I like how we interpreted what Dave has given us. I think we all took a little different approach. And so, of course, mine was completely my choice, of course, is Okay, All Right by Mo. I love my jam bands, and Mo is one of my favorite jam bands. And this song has nothing to do with the sentimental, but it's sentimental to me in the sense that the lyrics talk about early age, growing up in high school, learning about life. And again, I think it's one of those things when you listen. I never got to listen to the song when I was younger, of course, because it didn't come out till the 2000s, but or actually probably 1998. But it's one of those songs. It reminds me of that dazed and confused feeling. Going to school, learning rock and roll, finding your place in life, that kind of thing. And that's why I put this song on there because, as Dave said, it's an interpretation of life and where you're at in life. And you guys kind of covered the whole birthing thing. So I thought, well, maybe I'll put on something where it talks about how you develop as a person, how you develop as a teenager, and what you experience in that, how that shapes your life further on. And so that was one of the reasons I put this song
on. I almost forgot it was my turn again, but I didn't. He says in there, or sings in there, 1988. It's like, I thought of Dazed and Confused too, honestly, I did. And that's about the same age. I think it was set in the late 70s. And that was about when I was kind of at the age, I think, that they were talking about, or at least some of those experiences they talk about, I started having those maybe a little early, but anyway, so I totally can relate. And I like that we're kind of moving on. We kind of go back and forth on the baby songs and other stuff, but this is you know, this is kind of about the beginning of the changing in life. And that's as essential as anything else. And I look back fondly on those days, though, you know, with a teenager in my house, I worry about those days too.
For sure.
So, yeah, so that's a good song.
I same things that you said. I liked the fact that it was kind of set. You said back in 1988, but I took that and then I said, okay, let me look at the lyrics and let me see. And while I'm listening to the song, and I put myself back in 1982, 83 time frame, because he's talking about going to school and hanging out in the parking lot and partying and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And he talked about, you know, rock and roll and trying to figure himself out and figure out what he wants to do and join a band and do that. But I liked the rock and roll nature of it. I love the good guitar solo. I mean, it was just classic rock guitar solo, you know. And so no, I jammed on it. I listened to it several times over the last week or so, and really brought back a lot of memories for me. Like you said, put me in that time frame, and that's part of life. That's why we want to go back and relive those memories, for sure. My second song that I chose was "Forever Young," and this is another one of those ones where I played for my children growing up, and it became a favorite of theirs, because it talks about, you know, raising children, teaching them, setting them on their way. Hopefully they know, you know, where they came from, and that they can, you know, when I think one of the lyrics is, when they finally fly away, I'll be hoping that I served them well, you know, and we hope that we taught them well and that they learn the right lessons. I did some research though, and realized that the other, you know, the song "Forever Young" is similar to the Bob Dylan song that he did, "Forever Young," and some of the lyrics are even very similar in how they do it. So Rod Stewart actually gives credit to Bob Dylan on the record and agreed to pay royalties for all of that. So he knew that it was like his song, a different melody altogether, but used some of the same themes and some of the same words in his version of it. So he didn't want to copyright in any way. He went ahead and gave credit to Bob Dylan for his version of it. And so again, it's just one of those songs that always, when I hear it, just pumps me up, it lifts me up, and it's a real inspiring song for me.
Like you said, when we were first picking songs and you said "Forever Young," that of course the first one that came to my mind was Bob Dylan. You know, that's who I always think about because, well, I love Bob Dylan. And then this was one of those songs when you're growing up, again, it's one of those things where like, oh, look at this poppy kind of feely song, the feel good kind, oh, he's on MTV, that kind of thing. But now as you're older, you realize, oh yeah, I'm not forever young. You know, I can see, you know, I don't want to say I can see the end of it, but you know, it's one of those songs where, yeah, it does liven you up, and it is for the youth and how you should, you know, relish your youth. And you know, they always say, you know, youth is wasted on the young, you know, because you usually live in the moment, but now how much this song makes an impact on you when you hear it later on in life. And so, no, I enjoyed it immensely. And, you know, like you said, some of these songs that you don't hear for a long time, and then you hear it again, and then you delve more into it, you know, you get a much better respect for it. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I remember this from back in the day. I remember the video because there's this kid with him in the video. But honestly, back in the day, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I was listening to other stuff. Doesn't make it a bad song. In fact, it's not a bad song. It's a good song. But now when I'm like the theme keeps coming up, I have a whole different perspective on these things. You know, an adult wishing, I'm assuming his child, well. It's almost like a toast. This song, like something you might, you know, say is you're sending your son off to college, or you know, something along those lines. I say son because of the video, but And I don't know, does he actually ever identify this as being to whatever the character, the singer's child, or just kind of a general?
No, I
You
think it's
know.
just generally for,
Yeah.
fathers to their children, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, I've definitely felt that way, and I appreciate you bringing this out because I also may I'll look a little more into um, more recent Rod Stewart. I had kind of I think my listening to him where I actually bought a record, I think it was probably back when he was with the Faces, or earlier on. And honestly, I haven't given him a fair shake. So yeah, so my next song was Kooks by David Bowie. It's off of Hunky Dory. And that was one, I'd been into Bowie since I was, early teens. And I was familiar. I think the first thing I got was Changes One Bowie. And it was a greatest hits record. And I got it because it had the song Changes on it. And then it had these other songs that I kind of expanded my interest, but I never really checked out this record. I think I started getting some of his later stuff, getting into the later 70s and such. And the time I was around, he was doing stuff in the 80s. That was a mixed bag. Some was really good, some not so much, in my opinion. But then I was working at another restaurant, and one of my fellow cooks had a cassette. One side was Hunky Dory, and the other side was Ziggy Stardust. So to me, those albums now are just linked because we just play the over and over again, one side then the other. And I loved all the songs on there. And this one, Kooks, it was never released as a single. But even then, when I was in my very early 20s, I kind of got it. It's like, this is great. This is this guy and his kid, and yeah, it's a great song. It's funny. He had some of his wit to it. So yeah, if you haven't heard Hunky Dory, I recommend it.
Well, I had heard it and I had the album, and that's what kind of gave me pause. I'm like, man, I did not remember the song at all. And so when you played it, I said, okay, I'm going to go back. And this is one of the tracks on our playlist here where I actually went back and listened to the whole Hunky Dory album this last week just to see, like, oh, okay. And yeah, but it's early Bowie, and he's doing a lot of eclectic and kind of weird kind of things. It's not as commercial as he got in later, or not as poppy as he got into later. But it was like a new song to me to hear this. And then with the theme that we had, I thought it was brilliant, Mike. I mean, I thought the lyrics were great. I mean, it was coming from from the setting of a family who you don't always think of. That maybe they were artsy fartsy kind of people. They say they were into romancing and all these kind of things. And I love the line. I got to pull my paper up and read it because it not only made me laugh, but when I listened to it a couple times, I had to go back and see if that's what he was saying. He said, "And if you ever have to go to school, remember how they messed up this this old fool." So if you ever have to go to school, remember how they messed up this old fool. Don't pick fights with the bullies or the cads, because I'm not much a cop at punching other people's dads. And then he says, if the homework brings you down, then we'll throw it on the fire and take the car downtown. I mean, I love that. It's like he's saying, hey, we're gonna love you no matter what. We're kind of kooky parents here, and we may not know what we're doing, but at the end of the day, we're going to provide for you. We're going to love you, and maybe you'll become a kooky as well with us, And so I loved the lyrics, loved it a lot, and like I said, I loved it so much that I went back and just listened to the whole Bowie Hunky Dory album from start to finish. So thanks for making me remember how great Bowie is.
No, I
was.
agree. I'm going to echo those sentiments of what Dave said. And I know you had the album because we played it before and we've mined some hidden gems off that album, I know, on some of our other mixtapes. And I think one of the reasons, and because as I listened to it over and over, I kind of remembered this song playing. And I thought to myself, I've heard this song. I know we probably played it and heard it, but it has not as much meaning as it does now because, again, I'm going back to that theme, because it is funny when you first start, as when you first get married and you start out, you kind of are in it together, and then you have a kid and you're like, hey, get on board, you can take a chance on the two kooks, which is kind of how you feel sometimes. It's like, we may not be the best parents, we may not be the worst parent, we may just be there, but hey, take a chance on us and we'll guide you through this. And that's how I kind of interpreted that, and that's why I think it has more of an impact now than it had on us back then, because it does. It's fun to listen to the songs, but like, yeah, we know we're kind of kooky, but we're gonna take you through it, and that it really spoke to me a lot of ways in that way, because that's how I felt, when I have my son. And sure, we take him to concerts or we take him to different movies we like or sporting events. Like, hey, come along board. We're kind of kooky, but come along board for this. And so, and that's what that really spoke to me. So, it was a great song, and I'm glad Mike kind of brought it back again. I remember hearing it when you played the album, but man, it really makes an impact even more now. So, that was a great choice. My song, of course, I go back to my boys, the Fish, because I love the Fish. And the Show of Life. Now, I will say I could have chosen literally 20 Fish songs that all speak to life, because they're always about the positive energy and stuff. But this song is one of those songs which, trying to go along with what Dave was talking about with this whole thing about life and how we get through life, and life isn't easy, and how we go and how we deal with it. And of course, because I'm completely biased and part of the Fish cult, this song, every time they play it in concert, it's one of those showstoppers, and it kind of makes you pause for a little bit and go, that's right, we're all in this together, kind of thing. We're all in this, the show of life. We all have to deal with the same struggles and strife, as they say in the song. And that's one of the reasons I picked this song. Again, is it my favorite Fish song? No. But does it say a lot to you? It does. And I think we can all identify with what he's saying in the song, of how let's go through, and then have the friends, and we'd all like to thank you all. It's just a song that is a great reflection on, where you're at in life and what you want to say to certain people at certain times.
Yeah, I thought this song was really good at kind of stepping back and taking a more, I guess, philosophical look at life. And it kind of pulls back from the specific what we're talking about with, you're my baby, and all that. And I think it was really nice that way to kind of end this section, because it's talking about kind of moving through life, and even talks about the end of life, which is about to come up on our playlist. What is the, I have it up here. Oh, when I first heard it, this struck me. Let's see. Just as the blind imagine what it is to have sight, we slowly take a stroll into the night. I thought that was in so many different ways. I mean, not just, literally to the end of life, but, things start to fade, and, I can attest to this. Memories start to go away somewhere, and I thought it was a really beautiful way of wording that.
Yeah, I thought it was a great tune to exemplify life as well. I enjoyed the music of it. I guess I'm becoming a Fish fan now. I'm going to have to start delving into more and more of it. I just like the. I mean, I like that. I can't say that I'm completely liking jam bands or the Grateful Dead or all that, but I like the acoustic. I like the rock. I like that type of a sound. I think the vocals and things that they provide with Fish are just always really, really good. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then as I was trying to figure out how to transition, though, while I'm listening to the song, this is what inspired me a little bit. Is I had, for the next selection, I had three or four artists picked out who had passed away. Some of my favorite artists that had passed away in 2023. And for whatever reason, because of the way this song was driving and playing, I felt, no, I'm going to go with another song that's not similar, but like has a similar vibe to it, instead of going, you know, real slow or picking a different type of a thing. And so I don't know why this popped into my head, but I had remembered that a couple of the Bachman brothers from Bachman Turner Overdrive had passed away. Not just one, but two of them, of the three founding members, had passed away. And so then I immediately pivoted and said, okay, I don't know all their music. I just know there's three or four songs that are way cool that would go along with this. And I picked Let It Ride, which is one of the earliest off one of the first albums they had. And again, don't know why I picked it. I think it's a cool song. Two of the brothers that passed away were, you know, the lead guitarist and vocalist is Randy Bachman. He's still alive. He actually was one of the co-founders, or one of the founders of the Guess Who, before he created Bachman Turner Overdrive. And but his other brothers, I guess they were looking for musicians and trying to figure it out. And I guess in the early 70s, you could just go, well, what about my brother? Hey, maybe you can learn how to play drums or something, because they weren't really professional musicians at the time. And they just started going, yeah, I think I could do that. I could pick that up. Oh, we need another guitarist. And so let's get Tim to come play with us. So the brothers, Robbie Bachman and Tim Bachman, were the two that passed away, the drummer and one of the rhythm guitarists for the group. And so I, again, thought I'd pay homage to Bachman Turner Overdrive, or BTO as they're known. They did have like 7 top 40 albums. They had 11 top 40 singles, and so they had a big success in the early to mid and even into the late 70s with that. Don't know much about Fred Turner. I thought he was like the CEO of McDonald's or something, wasn't he? Jose, right? Didn't we?
Could be.
Okay, different Fred Turner, but me.
Yeah, I think it's
me and Jose grew up on working McDonald's, so we knew all about Ray Kroc and Fred Turner. It was beaten into us at the time, but I think it's a different Fred Turner. He plays bass and does vocals, but yeah. So that's it with that song.
No, I think this song works as well in going with the theme as well, because it didn't have to have meaning per se about you personally, but it was Bachman Turner Overdrive was definitely part of my development in listening to rock and roll. It was an AM staple. That group was an AM staple, you know, taking care of business, you know, we listened to those on AM radio when we were growing up. When they come on the thing, we would call in like to radio stations to have it played. You know, as kids, we were like, you know, hey, we want to hear Let It Ride, you know, call the radio station. Me and my brothers would be on the radio calling it like 15 times, like, you know, like stupid kids that we were. But because it's a great song, it's a rocking song. And, you know, it helped develop my appreciation for rock music, you know. And like you said, our generation of people, they're passing away, as you know, it's like you said, you know. And I think that's one of the reasons you put this in here, is because those guys are dying, you know. And those were I don't want to throw out the word hero per se, but those were our influences, whether we liked it or not. You know, Bachman Turner Overdrive was a staple in my house for a lot of years. And so to re-listen to it, man, this really put me in the backseat of our car driving down with my brothers, just listening to it and jamming and singing like a moron, you know, and, you know, having all that kind of fun. So, you know, I love that song. You know, I think it's such a great song, and it doesn't have to say anything, and it does too, because sometimes you just got to let it ride. Sometimes in life, you just got to let it ride. So now I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is my favorite BTO song. I remember when it came out. Well, I don't specifically remember exactly when it came out, but I remember my life at that time, and I was just kind of really starting to become aware of things, and, you know, still a kid basically, but like a lot of kids, you think you're older than you are. And so anyway, but yeah, I love this song. I can same everything you said, Jose. I can remember there used to be a thing called roller skating, not rollerblading, roller skating, and you'd go down to, oh, they were called different. Like there was in Dallas, it was the Thunderbird, but there were roller skating rinks, and I specifically remember roller skating to this song a number of times. But yeah, I like them pretty well, but this song is definitely my favorite, and it really takes me back. And it's sad to see those guys go. I like Randy Bachman. He has well, he used to have a radio show off of, they're Canadian, I guess. And so it was on CBC, which you used to be able to get, maybe still can, on satellite radio. I'd like to see if that show's still out there, because it was really good. He was just talking about old songs, not just his, but anyway, that's an aside. For my sadly passed away artist was Jeff Beck, one of my guitar heroes. I don't mind throwing that word around with him. I mean, just amazing career, just the quality of stuff he put out, starting with blues kind of things with the Yardbirds, and getting in more into the psychedelic stuff, and then even more driving blues as he went solo. Played with all kinds of people, Rod Stewart. I'm not even going to try to name them all, but they're in the Yardbirds. I mean, my goodness, all those guys, Jim Page, Eric Clapton. Anyway, so this, oh, and I didn't mention, he when I really got into him was actually his later, well, it was later at the time, when he was really doing kind of jazz stuff, along those lines. It was still, kind of rock, but like There and Back, and I'm not going to be able to think of the other ones, but Wired was another one. And I love that stuff, and I almost put on something from that. But I heard this one, Beck's Bolero, not too long ago again, and it reminded me just how much I liked it. One of his early solo songs. I don't think it was finally released on maybe his first solo album, but it was 2 years after he'd actually recorded it. It has a pretty stellar lineup with him. Jimmy Page, let's see, Nicky Hopkins, who played with just about everybody, piano. Now I'm going to forget here. I have, oh my goodness, John Paul Jones. So I'll get to that in a second. 2 of the soon-to-be members of Jefferson Airplane, Led Zeppelin, excuse me, and then Keith Moon. And if you know anything about Keith Moon, he was pretty wild. It drove him through his life and drove him, to the end. But you can hear him in this song. It's like this one, okay, it's based on Ravel's Bolero, and except he puts his own thing to it, same kind of rhythm though. And they get to this point, and suddenly it switches to this driving kind of rock song. And what kicks it off is this guy screaming and lunging into his drums. And that was Keith Moon. So when you listen to it, when you hear the scream, that's Keith Moon. I read about it today, kind of doing a little research. And apparently when he did that, Keith slammed something into a microphone. And so really right after that, you mainly just hear cymbals. You hear the other stuff, but they kind of screwed up the sound, but they thought it was so great they kept it. Okay, the other thing about this is kind of maybe an early iteration of what was going to become Led Zeppelin. I may have the story wrong, but from what I've read, so Keith Moon and John Entwistle, the bass player from The Who, were both supposed to be on this, but they were kind of dissatisfied with the band that they were in. Things had been kind of getting a little rough. So, but the last second, Entwistle just didn't show up at the studio. And so, but John Paul Jones and blanking out here, Jimmy Page, both did. Huh? No
Who?
Bonham. John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page showed up. So 2 of the 4 that were going to be in Led Zeppelin. That supposedly is the origin of what I understand is Keith Moon first said, this is going to go over like a lead balloon, this super group. They were talking about like, why don't we form our own band with these guys, like all of them? And Keith's like, oh yeah, that'll go over like I'm not even gonna try the English accent. That'll go over like a super like a lead balloon. And then later, John Entwistle heard it and used the term Led Zeppelin. and they'll go over like a Led Zeppelin, slightly different spelling for lead. But anyway, whether that's an urban legend, I don't know, but there's some documentation of that, if you care to believe it. So yeah, sorry to see Jeff Beck go. Long live Jeff Beck.
I didn't have any Jeff Beck records or albums growing up. I knew a few of the songs and that kind of thing. So this was new to me. Enjoyed the fact that it was just an instrumental version, and but it definitely showcased his artistry, his talent. I want to start listening to a little bit more Jeff Beck. I want to make sure that I'm clear though, and again, they always say no bad questions, right, or no stupid questions, whatever. So Jeff Beck, totally different, right?
Definitely
Yes,
so.
sir.
Just wanted to clear that up, maybe for our audience, maybe
That's
for
true.
us,
That's
because
true.
we've had some Beck,
Right.
we have Jeff Beck. So Beck, nothing to do with Jeff Beck. Okay, just wanted to make sure that was clear. But no, I liked the song. It was good.
No, yeah, like Mike said, Jeff Beck is definitely a guitar hero, but he seemed, and for whatever reason, and I think the real reason is he was never part of a major group, and so he's often overlooked. He plays with a lot of people, overlooked in the national sense or the international sense to a certain extent. I mean, obviously people know he's one of the greatest guitarists of all, probably top 5, you would think, but because he wasn't part of a group per se, he tends to be overlooked. And like Dave said, I don't think we own many Beck albums in the past. I think I own 2 or 3. I think I own Beckola. I think I own that. And, Beck, Bogart, and Appice, I think I own that as well. But but it's a shame that he does, because his music is really fantastic. And I regret never getting to see him live. That would have been, Mike, did you get to see him live?
Yeah, in fact, I meant to mention this.
Yeah.
This is when I first really got into his music. There was this benefit for Ronnie Lane, also from the Faces, and he had MS, and he was kind of getting in a bad way, and he couldn't really pay his medical bills. And so a bunch of his guys from back in the day, his buddies, including Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Joe Cocker, and Jeff Beck, and I'm forgetting many others, did a little mini concert for, and I got to see it. I actually covered it for my high school paper with out of focus photos as well. And yeah, there were a lot of highlights, but when Jeff Beck came out and he was doing all his more like later rock jazz stuff, I was blown away. So was a buddy of mine that was there with me, and we totally got into that after that. So that's a long answer to your question, but yes.
Oh no, that's great.
I got to see him one time.
I kind of remember you showing me the photos and me being a little envious, like, man, he got to go see Jeff and all these great guitarists, and he should have been put in that same stature as the Eric Clapton. Obviously, Eric Clapton gets a lot more recognition. Jimmy Page gets a ton more recognition. In those Ronnie Woods, in those circles, and yet Jeff Beck was probably probably the best of them all, and I don't think that's no hot take or anything like that. I think it's just reality. But because he wasn't mainstream on FM radio all the time, people tended to overlook him. So no, I enjoyed, and getting to the song, of course, the song is fantastic, and it really shows off his skill, as a guitarist. So, it's always fun to go back and listen to those albums and realize, man, imagine if he would have been part of a group like Led Zeppelin or The Who, or something, it'd been completely different. I think they would have been completely different, and not saying it probably might have been better. So, why wasn't he in the same vein as talked about as Jimi Hendrix? Not to take, obviously, I'm not going to compare the two or go that direction, but, you can see Jeff Beck was, just a fantastic guitarist. So moving on, now I kind of cheated because Dave did put the 22-23 thing up there about who died in 2022, 23. So I kind of cheated. I know a lot of people thought I was going to do Robbie Robertson, which I think we're going to save if we do one for the 23. So I chose 2022, and I chose Vangelis, That's I think people pronounce it different. Vangelis, or John Anderson and Vangelis, friends of Mr. Cairo. And this is I only know this song because of Dave Duke. He's the first one who played it for me. He had the album. We listened to it relentlessly, and it was just such a great song. And the great part is this song just not only shows off both of their great musicianship, but it also marries two of my favorite things: old movies and great music. And you really can't, beat that combination, especially Mr. Cairo, which I'm a Maltese Falcon. I saw it on the big screen with my son. My son loves that. We used to have a joke because there was I know this is way off a tangent, but there was a player on the Reds called Miguel Cairo, and every time he came to bat, we would go, "Oh, friends of Mr. Cairo," and we would sing that song because obviously I exposed it to my son. So, and of course, this version was a tad long, 13 minutes, because I used to have a bootleg copy of when he played it in concert, and he would cut it off right towards the end, right after about 6 minutes. So it didn't go the full 13 minutes. So putting this song on there was a little, like, oh crap, it's a long song. But that long version really shows off Vangelis's talent, on the piano and the music that he interprets. So again, this was one of those, I never would have heard this without Dave playing it and listening to Vangelis. Obviously, he doesn't really want to be. He had so many other great songs. Chariots of Fire. He won Academy Award or nominated for Academy Awards. He played a lot of soundtracks. But so that's why I chose this as a tribute to him, as a tribute to to life, as a big part of my life.
Yeah, when we got to this one, I didn't realize he had died. I was really surprised. I guess 2022. So I don't know how I missed that one. I'm usually pretty good at keeping up with that, but yeah, I remember this. I heard it on the radio. There's I guess it must have been the rock station that I listened to in Dallas, KZEW or maybe Q102. These two stations, they did a lot of album-oriented rock, something that doesn't exist anymore apparently. But I listened to those stations a lot, and they would play this. And I know it wasn't the full, unless it was in the middle of the night and the DJ had to go to the bathroom or something. It wasn't the full version. But I just remember, yeah, I like it. Obviously, I was never really familiar much with it. I remember it having, sound like scenes from different Bogart and other movies, even though at the time I didn't really know much about Bogart or any of that. I just recognized it from that. Maybe somebody can clarify this for me. Listening to the whole thing now, and then I read the lyrics along with it one time. It sounds like it's kind of going back and forth between these scenes from classic movies, or at least approximations of scenes between classic movies, and then this guy, I'm assuming the narrator, John Anderson, talking about his love. It almost seems like he's more into the classic. That's like so much of his life. I may be reading something into it, and then it was just kind of interesting how it winds down at the end where he kind of says his last couple of lines, and you hear the projector kind of, we don't have film projectors anymore either, children, but it's all digital now. But they used to have film projectors, and they would, if it ran out, it'd go flip, flap, 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 and it kind of does that. So I don't know. I'd be interested to hear somebody's thoughts on what's going on exactly in that song.
Well, let me say, I think some of those are made up things. Some of the earlier ones, like, I'll buy you the whole factory. Those are not part of movies or anything. It's kind of cheesy, actually, if you really listen to it. But there are versions where he's impersonating Mr. Cairo. And if I'm not to jump too deep, but Sidney Greenstreet, who says, "Well done, Mr. Cairo," if you know who that actor is. The Fat Man, or Mr. Gutman, if you watch Casablanca or any of that stuff. Yeah, I'm way too into that. But some of those scenes are, and then of course someone impersonating Jimmy Stewart. Mm-hmm. So I don't think, right, and it's really not the best Jimmy Stewart imitation.
Kind of useless, though, don't you think so, Mary?
All right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cheesy, but at the same time, it works for the thing. So to answer your question, yeah, I think he kind of put his own kind of little thing. Now, do they say "Well done, Mr. Cairo"? And they do, and that's part of the scene. But I think most of them are just things that he came up with on his own as to accentuate the song. Let me just throw in about the projection thing. I love that sound, and I went to go see a 70 millimeter of The Hateful Eight, and the best part of that was hearing that projector go. Like, that's how the movies I used to see movies when I was a kid. And so, anyway, long story.
Well, it's one of my favorite songs of all time. It just really is. When I first heard it, I went, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And I think, like Mike said, I think I had heard it on a late track on an FM radio, and then just had to go out to the record store and find it. And I like long songs, but I like long songs that change and evolve and have different parts to them, right? And that's what this does. It doesn't feel like a long song to me, because it has the parts in the front where it's fast, and then they slow down and they get fast again, and then and Vangelis is just running all the way through, and obviously having the vocals of John Anderson of Yes. He just is so positive in what he sings, and I love his spirit and his voice. So yeah, this is, for me, this was like, oh wow, Jose's gonna play this song, kind of deal, because again, it's one of my favorites, and I love it so much. I've probably played it, I don't know, 150 times or more, to the point where I think if you just said, "Go, Dave," I think I might be able to sing it, or get pretty close to the lyrics all the way through the whole song, just about, because it was, I've listened to it so many times. But I too like the movie aspect of it, the golden age of movies, and how he ties that in, and just a wonderful arrangement, wonderful song, and a great tribute to a great artist like Vangelis, however we pronounce. What's his full name?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
It's something like, I'm gonna mess it up, but something like Vangelis Papadopoulos or something.
Okay.
Like like, all I could think of was like Woody Allen in the movie when he says Victor Shakopopoulos. Remember that one? But it's something. It's a Greek name. It's like Papadopoulos or something like that. Yeah. Sorry, Vangelis, if I didn't get it right, but yeah, he does have a full double name. Although you've arrived when people refer to you by your single name, right? So
for sure.
That's it. All right, I guess so. The next one up, we kind of pivoted from there, artists who had passed away, to songs about dying or songs about death, and this is a song, I put the song on. It's called "Brother Up in Heaven," and it's an Alan Parsons song. But what's interesting is that the person who wrote the song wasn't Alan Parsons. It was a person that was in his band named Ian Berenson, and he was a longtime musician in Alan Parsons' band, and coincidentally, he passed away in 2023. So kind of giving homage to him passing, he wrote the song about his cousin who was killed in friendly fire above Iraq in 1994. So he was in the military, defending freedom, and ended up losing his life in that way. But the lyrics are very, very touching, because he says, "Brother up in heaven, please wait up for me." And he also says, "It's strange here without you, and we miss you," and that kind of thing. And a couple of years ago, coming up on 2 years ago now, a really, really close friend of our family, I would almost consider him like a son to me. One of my friends' his name was Mitchell Goetz, and he was actually right between two of my sons in age. So my sons are only like two and a half years apart, and he was age wise just right between them two. So between one of my sons, Matthew, who spent a lot of time with him, and then when Matthew got kind of older and then left for school and did all that early, then this person Mitchell pivoted and spent a lot of time with my younger son, who was a year younger than him at the time, and so he was like a son to us. And unfortunately, 2 years ago, he took his own life and committed suicide. And this is one of the songs that I put on a tribute CD for him with pictures and music to give to their family. And so it's just a real special song for me, remembering my son, sort of Mitchell, and then going from there. And then also I know, and I didn't try to do this on purpose or anything, but just, I know with Jose and with Auntie, I felt like this song touched the chord with me with that. And so I said, I'm going to put this on. I'm not trying to make him feel bad or anything in any way, but just the tragic loss of your brother. And I can't know what that feels like. I have one brother, and fortunately he's still alive. But I can only imagine what you've had to go through with that. And then maybe a song like this makes you remember, but also makes you heal a little bit.
No, it does, and it's gonna be hard to talk about that. So, yeah, my brother, he passed away, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. So this song really struck a chord, no pun intended. And okay, that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, guys, I really appreciate you sharing that stuff. That's really on its own. It's a really moving song, but hearing those experiences, I can't imagine. Honestly, I have a brother who he was actually a pilot over in Saudi Arabia and in Korea, and he didn't have that experience. He's alive and with us, and I can't imagine. And my heart goes out to anybody, including the gentleman in the song who goes through that. There's really not a lot else I can say to that. I appreciate you putting it out there. And well, I will add that this playlist idea was presented, I was like, wow, that's complex and involved. But I actually think it's one of the best. Just that thing about it, we're going from these great joyous moments to the harder moments, and that's life. You don't get one and not the other. If you're lucky, you get a lot of them. So thanks for the idea, Dave, and for the playlist, and thanks for the song and other songs. My next one, I'm going to pivot now. I decided to take it really a lot darker. If you're familiar at all with Father John Misty, he doesn't really do much lighthearted music. I love his. Okay, so the song is "Ballad of a Dying Man," so that fits right in with the theme. And there's a lot of dark humor to this song, but it's also kind of from the perspective of somebody in their last moments. Again, with humor, but dark humor. There's not a lot I can say about it. It kind of speaks for itself. I do sometimes like, I wouldn't say morose music, but things that, you have to think about those things and feel those things. And even just it's in a minor key, everything doesn't always have to be hooray, and he's really good at hitting that. He's a great composer, great songwriter. When people may not always agree about his views on let's say religion and other things, and some people may. But I recommend checking him out. You know, you may like him, may not, but in this song in particular, again, it's just, you know, lines like, eventually the dying man takes his final breath, but not before he checks his news feed to see what he's about to miss. You know, and it's funny, but in a way, you know, that's part of our modern life, and I bet somebody does kind of do that, you know, and it's not making light of it, because in the end, you know, musically in the song, he passes it, like the there's like a choir come in, and then the song just kind of fades out, and then suddenly ends. And so I know the guy from his other songs, he may joke about stuff, but inside of that, there's a lot of caring. So just want to throw that out there.
Well, I think it's my turn, right? Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's like this, like you said, it's like you live your life, and then you realize, and you look back and realize that none of that really matters. We probably all are a little bit critical and maybe judgmental, and we see the view of the world through our lens, and it's all we know, right? And so some may be more critical, more judgmental than others, but at the end of the day, like you said, the dying man is when you're on your at your end. Um, it doesn't really, those things don't really matter. And I like the last line of the song, you know, where he says, "We'll all be wrong someday," you know, and it's true. And so maybe comedically, and in this song, it was a little bit more out there of things that he was looking at and being critical of. But really, in the end, we all are going to be humbled at that day, at that last day, and whatnot. So I liked the vibe of the song and the melody. When I saw that it said, like in his title of the album or whatever, that there was, you know, had the word, you know, comedy parody or whatever it was, I'm like, well, this didn't sound that way. It sounded like a serious song to me. But I liked it. I've never heard of, is Father John Misty? Is that what it was? Father John.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Father John Misty. His last name is Tillman, and his first name is going to escape me right now. But he even has a song, Mr. Tillman, kind of about that, told in a third person.
well, again, I enjoyed the piece. I thought it was really, really good. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I enjoyed it. Sorry for getting emotional previously. It's just one of those things, but that's why we do it, and we go there. And I enjoyed this song. This was probably one of the, not that I don't love all these songs, but one of my favorites listening to this, because it kind of felt like he was talking about, you know, as we go back to the lyrics, you know, think of all the hacks running amok, and you know, all the ignorant voices go unchecked. And in today's society, we listen to that, hear that a lot with cable news and all this other stuff, and all these voices. And it's funny that, like you said, Mike, you worry about that. This guy worries about it even when you're dying. And I kind of feel that way. It's like, damn, you know, should I be worried about all that stuff? Even though that's the way I feel. It's like, man, all these people are going crazy, and isn't someone doing about this? And you know, you can't, when you're dying, you can't do it, but you feel like you should be doing something about it, which is weird. And I just thought that was a great line. And you know, and then in one of the final lines is, "We leave as clueless as we came." You know, that's also one of those things like that. That kind of makes sense, you know. Initially, I was like, do we leave as clueless as we came? But in some aspects, we do, because sometimes things don't go unchanged. Things just happen, and life does continue. So sometimes we're clueless as to how life really works, and you know what's happening. So no, I tremendously enjoyed this song. I love listening to it on my walks. I just think, oh yeah, this song. Like I said, sometimes I feel like I could have sang that song, or I could have written those lyrics, because that's how I feel sometimes. So it's a great song to bring us down. And my next song, Grateful Dead. You know, I have a theme of jam bands, don't I? Grateful Dead, Black Theater came out in 1970, Working Man's Dead. I always called this my, you know, I don't know if people think about this, because every time I go to a funeral, there's always this kind of music playing overhead in these funeral homes of these, this orchestral music, this somber. And I always think to myself, man, I don't want that kind of music playing. I do not. I want someone to stick in my playlist and play my songs that people like and people enjoy. But I always call this my funeral song because it is about a guy who's about to pass away. But just the lyrics. All of my friends came to see me last night. I was awake in bed and dying, and those kind of things. And then, of course, the one that really hits hard is you work up to live to this day, but it's just like any other day. As in, yes, people die every day. This happens every day. Doesn't make it any harder or any less on an individual, but it happens, and you have to deal with it in some way or your own way. And that's why I've always loved this song. Robert Hunter wrote the song. So supposedly some stupor. Well, you can debate that or not debate that, but I just felt that the lyrics in this song are just some of the best lyrics that they've ever sang. Used to love to hear it live in concert. Jerry always put his heart and soul into this song, and so that's why I chose this song.
I knew the song well. Working Man's Dead was one of the first, and for many years only, that and American Beauty. Probably a common experience for anybody that goes beyond, say, a Grateful Dead greatest hits kind of something or other. Were about all I had until I met Jose, and my knowledge of the Dead exploded exponentially, or grew exponentially. But yeah, it's even for the Dead, it's a pretty heavy song. And thinking that I didn't mean that to anyway. No insult intended to the Dead or people who like them. I like them. But yeah, so in a way, I was thinking about this now as we're talking. It's almost like it could be a cousin to my song. It's somebody thinking about, the last moments, looking around, not the last moments, but hours or maybe even days, looking around. And these are the experiences, things going through his head and thinking about, well, what's going to happen? And, my friends, what are they doing? And yeah, I'm going to be gone. And then that's it for me, but that's not going to be it for life. It's a very thought-provoking song, just as our pretty much all these songs. So.
Well, Mike, you heard him. So if we outlive Jose, we get to pick something off his playlist to play it. To maybe this song, play at his funeral.
I expect it.
If so, I mean, there's a line, and I wrote it down. And I remember this album a little bit, and those early '70s ones. Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter, in that one period of time, I think they put out like 4 albums in like 9 months or something, right? I mean, they're just cranking them out left and right. And but this is a style of Dead that I like. I like the slow acoustic bluesy kind of feel to it. And one of the lines in the song was, "Just want to have a little peace to die, and a friend or two I love at hand." I'm gonna read that again. "Just want to have a little peace to die, and a friend or two I love at hand." Isn't that what it's all about, really?
That's right.
Today. And then Jose alluded to it, just like any other day. Sun goes up, sun goes down. He says, and the shine through my window, and my friends, they come around. My friends, they come around. And maybe that's all we can hope for in the end. But yeah, I dig the song. I liked it a lot. I think it was perfect with the theme as well. So thanks for putting that on. My last selection that I chose was a George Strait song called Baby Blue. And I'll try not to totally lose it as I explain why I picked this song and what it means to me. So I had a baby blue. I had a daughter who was born with some heart problems and lived for about 2.5 years. And but that period of time when she came into our life and And as George Strait kind of says in his song, you know, she taught me so much. I learned so much that I didn't know before. And this song, I think, I don't know the story of what happened with his daughter, or how that happened, how old she was. I don't know. I can't even find anything that really explains or talks about it. But the song "Baby Blue" was the color of her eyes, baby blue like the Colorado skies. So she came and went, and I still don't know why. But here's to you and whoever holds my baby blue tonight. And um, you know, same kind of thing. I think he wrote it as, again, I don't know all the details of it, but I had a baby blue who we had for 2.5 years, and she ended up passing away, and she it came to us, and it just felt like a season, like, you know, it came in the spring and then she left. And time goes on, time doesn't wait. um, and but yet, for me, this song always brings back the memories of my baby blue, who was, her name was Rebecca Rose. And so I put this song on for my baby blue, Rebecca Rose. And she would actually be 24 years old now, if she were alive today. And so here's to you, baby blue.
Like you said, Dave, you know, we're always getting a little deep here, and it's always emotional. And like you said, same with, you know, brother up in heaven. You know, you don't know that feeling of losing a child, which I could never imagine. But losing a brother is tough, and I know this meant a lot to you. And I remember you going up to Michigan. We were there, and you always having to deal with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, great song. I'm not the biggest George Strait fan, obviously. You know, Rosemary used to play him all the time. Obviously, he's an SWT alum, so gotta love him for that. But you really get to learn about a person, and you know, like I said, you know, people always say, "Oh, country music this, country music that," but sometimes country music does the job as well. So it's a great selection.
Yeah, it really is. And again, I'd say I appreciate you sharing this very personal, both of you, these very personal stories. When we made the playlist a week or so ago, this came up, and at that, I had no idea. I did not know that about you, Dave. And you know, when I heard the song, it now it's, you know, it's in such a different light, and so much more meaningful. I could never express, you know, how I feel for you and what you're going through. I have never had that experience, and I'm blessed that I haven't. But and Rebecca Rose is a beautiful name. Yeah, there's not much else I can say, but thank you guys for opening up like that. My last song is Peter Gabriel, who Jose and I and a couple other friends are going to go see in about 2.5 weeks now. Although I don't know why people have concerts on a Wednesday night. Whatever, I'll adjust.
Is it in Austin?
Yeah. Say what?
Is it in Austin?
It is. It's at, okay, so the Irwin Center,
Irwin Center?
which is now basically abandoned as far as I know. It's the replacement for that, which is just down the road. And where the Irwin Center, I guess they used to call the Drum. To me, the new place, I'm not gonna be able to think of the name right now, but it looks like a straw hat. You know, it's very low to the ground. I think most of it's actually underground. Yeah, anyway, so the song is Growing Up, and this kind of, I intended to put this at the end because it kind of, again, that arc of life, it kind of takes this person, the song's narrator, singer, through the very beginning as a baby and becoming out into the world and aware, and then the experiences of growing up and getting older, and then at the very end dying. And none of it is negative, really. I mean, it's like it's not exactly emotionally detached either. It's like it's almost like the thrill of it all. This is like, every element of life, even though it may be hard for others and may be painful to us when it happens. It's just like part of the great adventure. And I thought that was for me a good last word to have. I hope I feel that way when I get closer to the end of life. And some of those adventures, the earlier ones, maybe at the time they weren't so much fun, but now looking back, my life is enriched by them. And there's not really much else I can say. I love this song. It is a longer song. It one thing, I don't know if anybody else caught this. Okay, at the beginning, it's almost like he's before he's before he literally is born, he's kind of like untethered. He's obviously by umbilical cord, but he's like he's kind of comes into life from wherever we all come from. And at the end, he goes out that way again, and he talks about it's so strange to be flying. I don't remember when I stopped breathing, but so that he's, at least in the song, he has some consciousness. But then it sounds like he said something about landing again, which sounds like, to me, my interpretation of it is he's saying it's cyclical. If you believe in reincarnation, that sort of thing, I don't really know, but it kind of seems to be what he's implying there. That aside, I do think it's a great journey, and I thought he did a pretty good job.
I have to make a confession on the Peter Gabriel side. I think, after Salisbury Hill and Vico and those albums, and then So, I think I just stopped listening to them for whatever reason through much of my college days and into my early adulthood. I just think I lost track, like you said, Mike, a couple times, with some of the things. And so I didn't know what he's doing and putting out newer music. And so I went back and looked at this album, and I guess I said this album Up was, had themes really running from birth to death throughout the whole disc they put out. I also noted that all the songs were 6-7 minutes long, every one of them. They're long, they're not long songs, but they're like Peter Gabriel does. He gets into that techno, that pop funk beat, whatever it is. It's Peter Gabriel, and it when you hear it. But he gets into that rhythm, and it's hypnotic, and he keeps going with it, right, to tell the story, to do the song. And so I thought it was way cool. I need to probably go back and listen to more Peter Gabriel. I wrote down a couple of the lyrics because I wasn't sure what it means, but he kind of said, 1 dot, that's on or off, 2 dot, a pair of eyes, 3 dot, a trinity, 4 dot, it's what will make a square. And I kept this last week, I've been thinking about, what does all that mean, or what's he trying to convey? I get, obviously the whole, birth aspect of it. Maybe that's the pair of eyes that, that's there. The Trinity, I guess there could be something to the Holy Trinity or something with that. But sometimes we don't know what Peter Gabriel is thinking, and what he does. He doesn't do the big flower thing anymore, does he? With
No.
No.
Okay, I just but yeah, I need to go back. I need to bring myself up current on Peter Gabriel for sure. And I hope you all enjoy the concert.
Oh, thanks.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm a huge Peter Gabriel. I love Peter Gabriel. Thanks to Mike. And in fact, I like his stuff after So a lot. I won't say a lot more, but it's more reflective, his stuff after So, about life and things of that nature than before. I know he's trying to make, he has a lot of insightful songs in his early albums. There's 4, like Mike said, like Dave said, like the Bicos but his other albums are really a lot of reflection and stuff and I love those songs. And I'm not sad to admit that he's carried me through a lot of times. Some of those albums are really really hit me hard. So, this song, of course, is one of those that is just such a fan, has all the elements of a Peter Gabriel song, all, the ups and downs and all the sounds. But I just think that, there was a great pick. I love Peter Gabriel, and this song really, speaks to me. Like I said, his albums after So's great, obviously. So has all the kind of hits and stuff like that. But it's the albums afterwards that I think he reflects more on life. He went through a divorce, he went through, a lot of relationship things and stuff like that. And those were the albums that for whatever reason I picked up on. Not that I don't like the early stuff. I don't like Shock the Monkey. Who doesn't? Games Without Frontiers. Who doesn't love those? But it's the other stuff after So that really captures me. And I think a lot of people, like Dave said, they stopped after So. And that, I'm not gonna say that's a mistake on anyone. They listen to what they listen to, but Peter Gabriel stuff in the last, 25, 30, obviously he doesn't put out albums for 13 years until recently, but is really a lot of great stuff that's great that you should mine and listen to, because they just have he has a lot of great songs, about life and of that nature. So I really love this song, of course, about life and going through life. And like you said, I take that as a positive, like, hey, this is a fun ride, let's enjoy it. So let's grow up. And we're always, I think, in some aspect growing up. Again, going back to the original theme, if I would listen to this song 25 years ago or 20 years ago, I don't think it has the same meaning. You're in a different place in your life and in a different aspect. But now that you're at this part, oh, okay, yeah, you should be, enjoying it. So love the song, love Peter Gabriel. So I guess I'm completely biased in that aspect. My final one, and this was inspired because as I was, and not to sound completely maudlin, but when my mom was in the hospital, and she spends 15 days in the hospital, you have a lot of time to do a lot of reading. And I went to Half Price, Dave, our favorite, on Broadway, and picked up a book called The Portrait of Bob Dylan. And initially I thought, I've read a lot about Bob Dylan, I know who Bob Dylan is, but this author took a different approach where he saw Bob Dylan in 1963, so he talked about that, and then his progression to 1974, and then his progression to 2009. And in some aspects, like Peter Gabriel, some people stop at a certain part with Bob Dylan. Like, oh, I know the hits, but from 2000 on, even from when we saw him in 89 on, he's put out some fantastic music, Grammy Award music. And when I was reading the book, this was what he was talking. Time in a Mind was what this song is off of, Trying to Get to Heaven. And man, it's just a great, fantastic song. A little bit song about redemption, and of course his clever lyrics are there because, well, it's Bob Dylan. So just a fantastic song, and it really touched me, as I would drive back, and because when I'd read the book and then get in my car to drive back home, it's about a 20-minute. I would listen to Time in a Mind and Life and Death, Love and Death, his other album in 2009. And just blown away by how really great he really still is. And again, we tend to leave certain artists after a certain time or for whatever reason. I think I posed this to Mike the other time. Does an artist really run out of talent at some point? And no, because we should just stop listening to him for whatever reason. For whatever, we're into different music or stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the case with Bob, where you tend to forget, man, this guy is really a genius, and that genius has never left him. And of course, this song, Trying to Get to Heaven, talking about, I hope I get to heaven, before they close and stuff like that. Just a great lyrics for Bob Dylan. I mean, it sounds kind of redundant, but that's why they chose this song.
Yeah, I definitely had fallen off following Dylan. I loved his early stuff, and then I got into more and more, especially after getting to know you guys, and we did some of these tapes. I learned more and more of his later stuff, and I think in high school I bought Empire Burlesque and another one that came out about then, and I was really into that stuff. But yeah, somewhere along the way, I kind of just drifted away from that. And I heard Love and Theft on the radio one time. I just picked up this song driving, actually as a police reporter, driving to cover a big event, a big crime that had happened out of town, kind of late in the evening. I was trying to get this thing at the last second, and I couldn't find anything on the radio. And then I'm tuning, and I somehow pick up a little bit of this song. It's off Love and Theft, not but it was like, that's Dylan, and that's really good. And so I really got into that, and I had not really. I once again I like, okay, now I'm interested in him again. Unfortunately, I have not followed up so much. There was another one that came after that I bought, but this is one I really, this is a good song, and I really need to explore it more. And the only other thing, I hope the door's open when I get there too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was a great way to end it, the playlist for sure. I wasn't familiar with this song, but I have listened to a lot of his later stuff as well, and picked up on some of that. Hopefully they'll make it on some future playlists. I have some cool songs that I think he's done that I'm waiting for the right moment to put them on, and they're not always the earlier stuff. It's some of the stuff he did, in the '90s and in the 2000s, that I think are just brilliant. Great, could have just done Knocking on Heaven's Door. We all know that one as well. And so when I saw this one, I said, I'm not familiar with it, but as soon as I started listening to it, it's classic Dylan. And I like the way that, again, that ties back to the Forever Young and the thing there with that too. So no, it's just a great song, great choice to wrap up the playlist. And so I really had a lot of fun with this playlist, and it sounds like you all both did as well. I think we're stretching ourselves a little bit, in different areas, and I think it's again, thanks for both of you for the music you put on, and your commentary and everything. I hope we can continue to put out these podcasts and build these playlists. And like I said, it's not necessarily it's going to change the world, one playlist at a time or anything like that, but it will change our hearts, and it will strengthen us as friends. And so I think if it does nothing more than that, then it served its purpose.
No, I agree. And, on the final note, like I've always said, like I said, we've known each other for a long time, but we're relearning each other as well. And I think these playlists really brings that out, and makes it a lot of fun. And like you said, and we get to listen to great music. So no, I appreciate all of the songs, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, we've changed a lot between then and now, yet a lot of it's still the same, down in here, we're kind of the kernel of who we are. And in a lot of other ways too, we're still there. And it's nice to get to know those people, and music and everything changed along with it too. And it's nice to, because I don't know a lot of the stuff you guys have been playing, and I'm getting to know that. And then just the last thing is, this project we're doing, it's really enriching my life. I don't want to call it a hobby, because I really look at it as more than that. I really enjoy this. If nobody else ever looked at these YouTube videos, it doesn't matter to me. I really appreciate you guys getting together, all three of us. So